Hello, welcome back to the channel, and this is a channel where we give you reviews, playthroughs, unboxings, and we generally like to talk a lot of bollocks. Tabletop gaming in general. And in this video we're going to be talking about a golfing dexterity game. We're going to be talking about Table Golf Association, and in this game you will be flicking a marble across a load of tiles, hoping to sink your balls into the hole before anyone else will allow you to win the game. So in this video we're going to be giving you a very brief overview of the rules. We'll be telling you what we do like, don't like. And we'll come back and we'll tell you whether or not Table Golf Association is worth your time and bother today and in the future. So remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel, hit the like button and all YouTube bullshit. See you after this. Bollocks. So, Table Golf Association, how'd you play this game? So Table Golf Association is a dexterity game based on golf, right? You think it was going to be based on sausages or something? The rulebook says there's two ways to play this game. You've got standard Table Golf Association, or you've got traditional golf. One uses ball markers and the other doesn't. So pick one and play it, right? First thing you're going to do is you are going to set up the tiles. These are double-sided. They have got different terrain on them. You might be putting from the rough, right? Or you might end up having a bunk up or you might end up in the bunker, right? There's also water hazards and all this sort of stuff. And there's a couple of courses in the rule book. There's a few more on the publisher's website, but there is detailed guidance on how to create your own courses based on different pars, right? So once you've done that, it's time to play the game. The first thing you're going to do is to check what the weather's like. No, you're not going to look out the window or steal your grandmother's barometer. You will roll the weather die, right? If you roll a sun, that means there's going to be no wind unless you've had a couple of onion barges the night before. You might roll light wind or you might roll strong wind, right? If you roll light wind, you're going to have to spin the spinner. This is taken straight out of a Hasbro game, right? I haven't seen a spinner since I crashed and burned playing Game of Life when I was 3 years old. The spinner will determine which way the wind is blowing, right? And you will have to move the little ball thing one ball space in that direction. And if you roll a strong wind, then you'll have to move it 2 spaces in that direction, right? So once you have done fucking about with all that wind, then it comes down to the meat and potatoes of the game, which is basically flicking a little ball bearing surrounded by a little plastic thingamajig. You put the ball bearing on the T space and you will flick it, trying to get it into the hole at the end of the course. There are plenty of hazards to mess with your brain, right? If the ball lands on one of these hazards, then you will get a penalty. If you land on the fairway, you'll be able to flick the ball bearing with any finger. If you land on a rough, you'll have to flick it with any finger on your non-dominant hand, right? So if you wank with this hand, you'll have to bat one off with the other hand, right? And if you hit one of the tree spaces, then you'll have to flick the bean with the middle finger of your non-dominant hand, right? Which in my case would be this one. You've also got sand. If you land in a bunker, then you will use the thumb of your non-dominant hand. So you can use your thumb and forefinger to get ball into the hole. And if you land in water, you get a one-shot penalty and you'll stick the marble thing on the closest space to where it entered the water. There's also some cardboard clubs that are included in the game. The publisher says in the rulebook these are for people with disabilities, but for God's sake, these are utter dog shit, right? And just throw them in a bin. So there's also a few golfers that you can get. There's a pack of cards with golfers on, and these will give you a unique special ability. So for instance, if you've got Manny Mulligan, you could take an extra tee shot with no penalty. Or if you've got Lucy Lucky Lou, a shot in the trees can be moved to adjacent rough or fairway. If both sides of the terrain are adjacent, the player decides. Or you might end up with Wendy Waterless, right? She must be wearing some special kind of knickers. Shots in the water follow normal placement rules, but does not suffer a one-shot penalty. So you can stick these golfers in. They add a little bit of mystique to the game. And yeah, we chuck them in most of the time because otherwise it's just flicking a marble and hoping for the best in it. There's also a bunch of pro rules in there. When you spin the spinner, you can add draw or fade to your shot, and you can play skins and all that sort of thing. And it even gives you a little trophy to hand to the winner, because I suppose they had to justify the obscene cost of this game somehow, didn't they? So if you end up with the lowest score at the end of the game, then you will be the winner of Table Golf Association. So what do we like about Table Golf Association? So the first thing that we really like about this game is it's a dexterity game, right? And in my little dungeon, dexterity games are one of my favourite genres of all time, right? So I always embrace the pain and suffering of dexterity games, regardless of whether they're good or not. And when one of our subscribers recommended this to me, I was all over it, like a rash on David Duchovny's nutsack. Don't know what it is. It's just something about flicking stuff that gets me all sort of excited, gets pimples on my arms, yeah? And it's probably the closest thing that you're going to get to golf on your tabletop, right? We played various other golfing dexterity games like Roll in One, and they just don't have that sort of feel that you're actually playing golf. Unless you actually stand on your table with a club, you're not really going to be playing golf. But I suppose, given dexterity games limitations and given the limitations of tabletop, it's probably the closest thing that you're going to get to the real thing, even if that is a million miles away. So the second thing that we like about Table Golf Association is there's a load of different variants in the rule book. You could play normal golf, right? You could play skins, and there's a few expansions available. There's a wilderness expansion which adds more terrain stuff. It adds an Arizona cobra that will try and bite the end off of your helmet, your crash helmet, yeah, not like you, oh fuck off. There's a Florida gator in here. Just when you thought it was safe to go back into the water, you realise it fucking wasn't. And there's a Minnesota grizzly that doesn't actually look that terrifying, right? And there's also a European expansion which you got the pot bunker, and it just says bloody hell, like a geezer read my mind, isn't it? It's like climbing down into a sandy dungeon that will take a great deal of power to get the ball out of. Bit weird, isn't it? Eh? I suppose there's just a massive lump of hashish at the bottom of it. And you've got the babbling brook here. It says stake these brooks right across the fairway to see how many foul-mouthed players you can create. That sounds like it's right up my street, yeah? So yeah, this game comes with a few variants in the book and some nice expansions, and I do believe that there is a new version of this coming out called the family version. It's coming to Kickstarter or GameFound soon. Don't do Kickstarter, so we won't be picking it up. So yeah, you can expand this game, and there's a lot of variants to keep you satisfied and stop you getting bored at your nut. So the final thing that we like about this is that the penalties in the game feel quite balanced, that they don't penalise you too much so you feel completely and utterly neutered, and as such there's always a way back into the game, yeah? I mean, like, using your non-dominant hand does sound like a bit of a handicap, yeah, but really at the end of the day, whilst it is a little bit more difficult, it's not that difficult. And I suppose if that's the way that the designer's going to go, then it works quite well. It's a bit like sort of a dungeon fightery type thing where you have to roll the dice while like sort of jumping up and down or sticking two fingers up your bumhole. So don't we like at Table Golf Association? So the first thing that we don't like about it is the lack of courses in the main book. Let's have a look, see how many there are. There is 1, 2, there's 3 courses in the book. That's not enough, right? That is complete and utter shite. There is an 18-hole course on their website, yeah, but it's basically photographs of the holes. There's no like PDF book that you can download, which would have been nice. You could print off and stick in the box. I suppose you could go and print off the photos, but they're really bad quality. It just doesn't look right, yeah, and it looks really cheap and nasty. And I just can't be asked to design my own courses because they give you like 2 full pages of rules on how to design a course and make it balanced. I can't be asked for that. I'm lazy, I'm stupid, and I want to be spoon-fed this shit, yeah? I don't want to buy a game and then make stuff up myself, yeah? So the fact that there's only 3 courses in the book is a criminal underestimation of my level of patience, yeah? So the next thing we don't like about this game is the lack of tactile nature on the tiles. Each one of these tiles is really, really smooth, and to counter that, the designer went for penalties that involve using your non-dominant hand. It would have been much better if these tiles had some sort of tactile nature, if like the rough had felt on it so that when ball lands on that tile it slows down a little bit, or maybe the bunker has a dip in it so you're in there but it's more difficult to get out, yeah? No, they went for the easy option, they went for the cheap option, and it just doesn't really work as well as I had hoped. Played this with my 6-year-old daughter the other day, and we set up one of the courses in the book and she got a hole in one, and I'm like, that's just got to be a one-off, innit? And she did it 4 times on the trot, yeah? And if you add to this, when the ball goes into the hole, it moves all the tiles around, so you're going to be constantly putting the tiles back together. They're going to be moving all over the place, and it just doesn't really work that well, so it's really disappointing. So the final thing, and the thing that really fucks me off about this game, is the setup of each hole is a complete and utter mindfuck. These tiles are double-sided, right? They've got no numbers on them, so you don't know what's on the other side side of the tile until you look at it, yeah? If you're playing an 18-hole course, which I wouldn't recommend, yeah, because you will end up throwing yourself off Beachy Head, you're going to be searching through a mound of tiles, trying to find the right one. You'll be putting them together, and then you'll find that the courses in the book, you can't make them up. You haven't got enough of the tiles in the box to make the courses that are in the book. Constantly setting up and tearing down courses to play this game is one of the most frustrating experiences I've had with a dexterity game in a long time. And like I said, if the course is too easy and all the 4 players get a hole in one, you're going to have spent 5 to 10 minutes setting up the course, 2 minutes playing the game, and then you're going to have to tear it down, set up a new course again. The pain and suffering that you go through setting up each course just isn't offset by the reward you get from sinking the ball in the hole, right? And it's a glaring flaw in this dexterity game. So, is Table Golf Association worth your time and bother today and in the future? You know what, I'm torn with this one, yeah. This is an excellent dexterity game that is the closest thing to real golf on your tabletop, aside from donning your +4s, getting up onto your 5-footer and whacking a ball through your patio doors. I would have much preferred textured tiles instead of the non-dominant hand penalty. If I'm going to use my non-dominant hand, I'll bat one off in the shower, right? It's not really anything quite like this, yeah. It's a bit like a golfing version of pitch car. However, the constant setting up of the courses for each hole renders this game practically unplayable, and as such we simply can't recommend this as a viable alternative to similar dexterity games, right? Go out and buy Dungeon Fighter, go out and buy Pitch Car, yeah, and maybe just accept the fact that there is no accurate version of golf, and there probably never will be. So there you go, that is Table Golf Association. Remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel, hit the like button, all that YouTube bullshit. See you next Tuesday.